from Corey. Corey's left a lot of great comments and questions tonight about targets in the offseason. Now, I know this is probably something we should wait to do, but I really do love talking free agency. If you want to talk some free agency, I'm down for the next, 14 or so minutes. But I think this is a really fun question. And it's funny because I was actually thinking about this over the last couple of days. Uper, what do you think of a guy like Rhys Hoskins coming to Detroit this offseason? He could be your DH, and you could move.
I thought we wanted Kerry Carpenter to be our DH.
Well, you could move Kerry Carpenter to the outfield. I'm just saying Rhys Hoskins is a guy who's still relatively young. He's a guy you could see that could hit 20 to 25 home runs. And I don't think you're going to have to commit a long-term contract to. That was just an idea I had, kind of like an off-the-wall target. I'm sure there's a lot of other guys we could name, but that was just something I was thinking about, and I kind of wanted to get your thoughts and the thoughts of everybody else.
No, he's a good player. He's got playoff experience. He's been relatively, steady in his career. Obviously, I think he was hurt this year, right? He's been out. So he's coming back from injury. Maybe that helps you get him at, less cost, less years. He wants to prove himself. Again, I don't know what you do with him, though. I mean, he's not going to play first over Torkelson unless something goes badly wrong with Torkelson. I think he's proven he's really not an outfielder. So, yeah, he'd have to DH. And that's fine. I mean, they're going to need a DH. I personally think Kerry Carpenter is going to stay in the outfield in some way, shape, or form. I think he's pretty young to tell him, sorry, you're just going to bat from now on. I think he's going to keep playing the field. I really do. Depends how much working and how much better he gets at it. Matt Chapman's a free agent, right?
Yes, he is.
Third baseman. If they don't feel that Justin Henry Malloy is a real third baseman defensively, and they don't feel that Colt Heath can handle that position either, then, do they want to go out and get somebody like that who they know can handle the position and also might knock 28, 30 bombs for you? I mean, that's not a bad guy. So we'll see. I mean, he has some shortcomings too offensively, but that's a pretty good player. Now, obviously, I think we're always saying, we chuckle and we talk, and I think we all know Shohei Ohtani's not coming to Detroit. But just remember, whenever he signs somewhere next year, that if the Tigers don't make an offer, it's because they chose to not make an offer. They could, and they could try, but they're not going to. I'll just shut up about that.
I mean, they could. We don't know if they're not going to, but
Illich has the team could afford it when you just think of what he would bring to the table in terms of fans, TV, and everything else that he would, and just what he does. The team could afford it. Every team should be competing to get him, but only about 3 or 4 probably will in the end.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. We did have some comments about, Harrison is a no to Rhys Hoskins. I don't know. I just think having another right-handed hitter that could probably put up similar numbers to Torkelson and a left-handed heavy lineup, you would think, with Colt Keith maybe making his way to Detroit. And you hope Kerry Carpenter, like you said, is still young, can handle the outfield. I mean, Chapman, I just don't know if I trust him enough offensively, and I do think he's probably going to get overpaid with the infield market being as poor as it is. I think he's going to get a pretty long-term deal, and I just worry how impactful of an offensive player he can be. And if I'm being honest, if you would ask me in the next 3-4 years who the better player is going to be, Colt Keith or Matt Chapman, I could probably convince myself that Colt Keith might be the better player. Now, obviously, we know he's not going to be what Matt Chapman is defensively, but I think offensively he's probably going to make up for that. But in terms of most important need, I still think I would have to go with a starting pitcher. I think that's number one on my list for the Tigers this offseason is get a veteran starting pitcher who you can rely on. And there's plenty of names for that as well.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be plenty of ways to go. And, I would say starting pitching. Again, it really depends on what do they feel. How many innings do they legitimately think they can get out of Casey Mize? Does Erod come back in some form with some kind of deal? Skubal, is Lynn Henning shocked the world, and is he right? Do they trade Skubal for bats? Who knows? I would say most people would scream no, but again, tell me who they can get, and then I'll tell you what I think. But if they were to trade Tarek Skubal, and obviously, yeah, they probably do got to go out and get an arm. But even if they don't, you'd like to see them add depth guys, because they don't have a ton coming up through the minors right now that are really on the brink ready. Ty Madden's been a little up and down. Flores wasn't the same guy he was last year. Jackson Jobe probably still a year away, right? Probably not going to see him next year. If we do, it might only be for, 8 or 10 starts as the summer wears on. So we'll just have to see where that goes. Again, the offense looks good right now, and it has for a few weeks. But look at the totality of the year. Where does this team rank offensively? Something like 28th in on-base percentage. Pretty far down in run scoring if we look it up. This is still not a good lineup, quote-unquote good, okay? They have holes. They need more bats. So that's, they need Colt Keith to be the guy they hope he is. They need Justin Henry Malloy to continue to hit like he has in Toledo and find a home defensively that they can live with. Those things need to happen, or they need to cut a trade for Skubal for some guys who can hit. Because again, we're seeing some nice positive signs, but there's work to be done.
Yeah,
again,
and I got
the World Series, and sorry to interrupt you.
There you go.
Remember, winning the Central is a fine goal and it's a nice goal, but let's hope the goal is to win the World Series, be world champions, okay? Be the best team in baseball. That's got to be the overarching goal of everything. And they're nowhere near that right now. So as happy as we are with the 3 guys who are hitting well, work needs to be done.
Yeah, and a guy Raj mentioned on the last podcast was Whit Merrifield, who, if I'm being honest, I kind of thought he was on the downswing. I didn't really expect him to have the renaissance that he has, being an all-star for the Blue Jays. He does have a mutual option. I think he'll be about 35, 36 years old, so he's a veteran, but we know this is a guy who can hit. He can run the bases. He can field. And if I'm being honest, I don't really know how I feel about Zach McKinstry being our everyday second baseman heading into next year. So I think Whit Merrifield could play that role. He could play the outfield. I mean, I think he could be a guy that can really help this team. You could see him sliding into the leadoff spot, putting him in the 2-hole. I think he's a really nice veteran for this team if they want to add offense. And then, like we talked about, there's some outfield options. Cody Bellinger, I think that's a bit of a pipe dream, if I'm being honest, just with the season he's had. He's probably going to want a big deal. I don't see that happening. But, I mean, I'll say it all off season. I really want the Tigers to try to add a front end of the rotation starter if you can get them on a 2 or 3 year deal. I've talked about a guy like Jack Flaherty. I think that would be a home run for them. Michael Walker's got a club option. You could take a flyer on a guy like Noah Syndergaard, Luis Severino. He's a guy maybe could have a bounce back season. So there's going to be a lot of options. I think it's a really fun topic. But I do think if I'm going to say one thing about free agency, it's that the Tigers are going to have to be a little more active. I'd say even a lot more active than they were the previous offseason. If they really want to solidify their depth and really push themselves over the edge to win 85, 88 games, maybe push into the lower 90s, which I think is a lot to ask for. I think if they're going to win this division, they're probably not going to win 90 games next year, but for them to really compete for this division, I think there's a lot of additions that need to be made.